Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. I'm the Nighthawk, along with our studio director, Mr. Alan Ritchie Cunningham. David is not with us this week, so just myself, and on my right is my good pal, Mr. Duke Forrest.
Yeah.
And I will tell the viewers out there that Duke is under the weather here tonight. So I'm not asking, I'm begging, I'm pleading to get phone calls here.
Yeah, please give us some calls. I don't want Hawk to kill himself tonight.
Yeah, and the phone number here, of course, is... I never remember.
You can't see it. It's 528-5315. I believe that's on the screen. Is that on the screen now?
Not on the screen. There it is, 528-5315.
Yeah, 528. But yeah, please give us some calls.
Number one sports show. And Duke, as the resident meteorologist here, could you inform me of how many inches you believe we've had?
Yeah, a little tough with the wind. It was pretty windy, but a persistent storm. It's still snowing. It looks like we might get another inch or two tonight. I interviewed Mayor Tim Smith this morning, and I asked Mayor Tim that. He said he thought 8 to 10. That sounded right to me. Burlington reported 9. I was just watching Channel 3. Of course, I don't know who these... Burlington, of course, is a weather service at the airport. That couldn't be more official. All these other people, I'm always curious who these phantom observers are. But I think they threw up Swanton 10.5. But yeah, I'd say about 10 inches or so.
Now, Duke, these observers or phantoms
that's what I call them.
Regular Joes, where they measure and are they volunteers?
What can I tell you?
Now, didn't you used to be?
Oh, absolutely. That was probably the job I'm most proud of. Forget my news job. Sure, for years, courtesy of 2 jobs. First with the County Courier in Enosburg Falls, and then with the radio folks. We were official National Weather Service substations.
Yep.
And the one plaque, not that I've had a ton of plaques in my life, I got a really nice plaque from the Weather Service at one point. Of course, of not a million plaques I've gotten, that's the one, of course, I can't find.
Oh, gee.
But anyway, yeah, so for years, courtesy of my 2 jobs, I was a cooperative weather observer, and we had official equipment. This is official temps. It's funny, we had a wind gauge at the radio station, and you may recall, it just seemed to be windy. It just seemed like we had way more days than we should have, with like gusts over 50. I think our anemometer, if I got the right word there, might have been a little shaky. But anyway, sorry to get sidetracked on that. But yeah, I'd say 10 inches or so. Weather Service folks did a deal. It was kind of a funny storm. It was a huge storm. One of my best Duke friends, my man Michael Protzel, who gets together with my best Duke friend Roy in Underhill. They get together every basketball game. Near the season football ticket holders. Mike's in New York, New Jersey. Roy's in Vermont. Anyway, it was easy to think of Mikey. He's got a nice place in New York City, but he's got a beautiful place, very New Englandy, out in northwestern New Jersey.
Okay.
It's more New England than a lot of New England I've seen. And he's about 10 miles away from Newton, New Jersey, which I think had a minor league baseball team for a while. Guess what? Newton was in like the top 5 of the places with the most snow. How about 32 inches in Newton, New Jersey, right near my friend Mikey.
Wow.
Tried to email him yesterday, and it didn't go through.
Yeah.
But it was a big, I think New York City, officially a little over 17 inches. I think the 16th biggest snowstorm on record in New York City.
Okay.
But this is a big storm. We just kind of got more of the wraparound, a nor'easter going up the coast, and it's still doing it, just kind of throwing back moisture in this area, because Champlain Valley, easy to think of our old boss man, John Kimmel, at the radio station, who was an excellent weather guy, and he just used to Champlain Valley banana belt. He would get very discouraged with Champlain Valley, but once in a while, on the back end of these storms, we'll kind of get persistent light snow for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think, so if Burlington got 9 inches, I think they started the storm at about 35 seasonal, so they should be up to mid-40s or so.
Okay.
Average annual snowfall in Burlington is about 75. So they're about where they should be. They're about 30 inches short of their average annual at this point, so they're probably caught up to being about on average.
Yeah. Of course, before the office opened up this morning, right after the plow came, I went out and did my due diligence of shoveling, which I still enjoy.
Yep, same here.
And So working all day, and I didn't realize that we picked up additional accumulation.
Yeah.
So I come to the station here tonight in sandals. I've got
In sandals?
sandals. Yeah.
Did you think springtime had arrived
Well, no,
in the last
I've got,
couple
I've
hours?
got socks on, but so I get out there and so
Sandals?
holy cow. So, yeah, and I will say this, and I haven't been on the road for the last couple of days. It was slippery coming out here tonight.
It was. I had to go down to feed my good friend Anna's cat Rowan at her Georgia Shore house yesterday, and it was very sloppy going yesterday. I came across. I was in Enosburg at 1906 house. The roads weren't too bad coming across, but yeah, kind of sloppy going.
Yeah.
And of course, while we're on weather, just a little more. The dreaded term, what's the term I hate to hear? Polar vortex. That's come back into play a little bit. And looks like we're not going to get a direct hit, but the northern plains, just worthless, starting like Monday through mid-week this coming week. I mean, places like Minneapolis looks like maybe 3 straight days not above zero.
Okay.
And they've had it very easy so far, pretty much 5 to 15 degrees above average. But they're going to get, we're kind of on the edge of that. It looks like next week, daytime highs, teens for about 4 days.
Okay.
Nothing insane, but about 10 to maybe 15 degrees colder than average.
Yeah. Now, duly noted that sunset is now after 5 o'clock.
Mercifully, yeah, we're after 5.
Yeah, it's almost an additional hour of daylight from December 21st. So,
it's
getting
real
there.
Nice. Yeah.
So we are in Super Bowl week, and with that being said, I'm going to start the show talking about baseball. And we've been chatting about, I don't know, just ownership, commissioner's office, not deciding about the DH and all that stuff. This week, ownership proposed to the
Players
union,
Union,
that they wanted a delayed but full spring training to begin around March 22nd.
About a
Now,
month
as we
later.
sit here February 3rd, we're literally 2 weeks away from the start of...
Usually our friend Leonard would be giving us maybe how many minutes
Yeah.
are left before the start
Yeah.
of spring training.
They wanted a delayed 154-game regular season to begin around April 28th.
Yeah.
And they, even though it would be 8 less games, they would be paid for their full 162-game salary.
So they wouldn't lose any money.
They wanted an expanded 14-team postseason,
Yeah.
and lastly, a return of the designated hitter.
Sounds like a pretty fair deal to me.
Which ditto for me. Now, I did point out last week that the union didn't like the expanded playoff for the reason of, well, normally, say, it takes 90 games to grab a wild card spot.
Yeah.
But if they put more teams in, they figure maybe an 85 games might give you the ticket.
And so what's your problem with that?
The problem there is, I'll say the Red Sox, for example.
Yeah.
Say that they around 85. If behind closed doors they say, look, this is what we got. Realistically, we can win 85 games with this, knowing that they have expanded playoffs, okay? Now, the union fears, while the Red Sox, with this expanded playoffs, won't get this additional player at X teen amount millions a year, trying to get to 90 wins, okay? So they feel like...
No, so they won't spend the money that they otherwise might.
So we talked about that last week, but it was also brought up, which I'm not smart enough to realize, what about the other side of the coin? What about these marginal teams,
Right.
at best, strive to play 581 games?
Yeah.
Well, if they have that proverbial carrot in front of their nose that,
Yeah.
you know what, we have expanded playoffs, maybe 85 games will do it.
It might go after somebody, might spend some money.
Small market, the Cincinnatis, the Pittsburghs, the Kansas Cities of the world might do that. So, but, it's just been interesting to me all winter. And again, 2 weeks away from spring training, the DH. There are certain players out there. I mean, well, what it does is for example, Nelson Cruz, the great designated hitter.
Just got, re-up for a year by the Twins?
By the Twinkies, right. What happened to him, though, it literally took away 50% of possible employment by not instituting the DH in the National League.
Yeah.
So now the CBA is up after the season, and
up in December.
Me getting an idea here that there could be some strife in the union come.
So again, right now, are we talking spring training? Is there spring training start? I mean, I can't believe it. Arizona, a state that's got some real issues with the coronavirus. So we're talking, everybody's showing up there and in Florida in a couple of weeks. So is that what's happening, or are they still bickering?
No, Manfred said all systems are go
for regular spring training now.
Yeah, but personally, I don't see the issue in Arizona because with no fans going to the games, it's just the players, and if they get COVID, they sit out.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
So again, as of right now, we're talking spring training in
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yep. February 18th.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, the owners were also hoping by delaying it that the coronavirus would be less of an issue so they could get at least some fans in the stands and stuff. That sounded totally reasonable to me.
Yeah. Now, and I quote, the thinking behind the delay is that it would give an extra month for all folks in all walks of life to receive the COVID vaccine, theoretically making for a safer environment for everyone involved and making it more likely, as you said, for fans to attend games in 21. So
again, presumably no fans in Arizona or Florida. Is
that would be my guess?
Yeah.
Florida.
Although Florida Super Bowl is getting, I think, about a third full at Raymond James.
25 for the Super Bowl.
About a third or so.
Yeah. So. There's just not much give and take between management and union, which is probably normal for any business.
Yeah, but I think you're right. December, we could have don't count on. Hopefully we can stumble through this season, but boy, next year, that next negotiation could be pretty tough, especially if issues keep coming up this season.
Yeah, and I like to tell people I know a lot about a lot of things, but unfortunately I probably know less about more things, and medicine being in that category. And I think David briefly mentioned it last week. I'm starting to get a gut feeling that this pandemic will probably see the year 2022. I just don't think it's going to disappear that quickly.
No, I think you're probably right. It'd be nice if everybody at least was able to get vaccinated by the end of the year. But I think some of this goes into next year too. Yeah, tough situation.
Yeah,
Vermont still seems to be doing pretty well.
And while you mentioned Vermont, here I'm a little confused. I think Friday's the drop dead date where Governor Scott has to decide if high school sports can go. And it's funny because they haven't played and we're getting into playoff season right now. My question, and I asked you this question during the fall, where New Hampshire was playing regular tackle football, and Vermont was playing the pansy two-hand touch, whatever, and New Hampshire's doing their winter sports.
Is that right?
Right. And Vermont, we're too small.
For the record, for what it's worth, and I know you're going to tell me it's mostly old people like me, which I guess is the case. I think New Hampshire's had about 10 times as many deaths in Vermont for a state that's just twice as big as Vermont. So for what that stat's worth to you?
The population of Vermont, let me guess, is it like 330,000?
Double that. That's 625,000.
Right.
New Hampshire's about 1.2 mil.
Yeah.
Twice as big, and I think they've had about 10 times the deaths.
Okay.
So there's some issues in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I suspect some people are probably less than impressed with what New Hampshire, but they're doing regular school girl sports.
Yeah. So,
It seems like Vermont, boy, is it even, what can I tell you?
But the thing, too, about Vermont is winter in Vermont doesn't recognize the calendar March 21st by saying,
good luck playing baseball in March.
Right. So
outside,
they can really play until the winter sports, if they want to, till mid-April.
Yeah.
and get really most of the season and conduct playoffs. And baseball can start. They generally start in mid-April and maybe start a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
But, who knows? I mean, I'm just sitting here.
So, again, you're telling me I
spitballing.
haven't paid much attention to this issue. So Friday is supposedly the date that they've either got to start moving on sports or just bag it.
And I saw something on the internet free press today with Governor Scott, but our engineer, Alan Cunningham, kind of gave me the heads up on that as well. It'll be February 5th, and again, that's pretty much the start of the playoffs.
Yeah, Friday, of course, being the second twice weekly press conference that the governor is doing. So, well, I'm sure folks into school. But again, you were thinking what they did with football. Weren't you thinking why bother if that's all they're going to allow?
Yeah.
I mean, you thought that was just pretty much of a joke, right?
Well, there were a great percentage of people that didn't go out. And if I was playing high school football, I can guarantee you I would not go out to play two-hand touch football. It just would have been a waste of time. And I feel bad for these kids because
for sure.
When they look back in their high school years, for a lot of them, sports is a big thing. And I'm sure that there's other activities, non-sport activities, that have been canceled as well.
Yeah, I think we already mentioned the Duke women's basketball team just bagged their season a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I think they might have been the first, maybe even Power 5 conference team to do that.
Yeah. And, of course, UVM gals, a week and a half or so ago,
bagged it.
Made their own decision of bagging the season.
And speaking of UVM, I haven't even, are we still talking, are they on pause now for pretty much everything? Hawk, is there no hockey, no nothing's going on now?
Okay. And that's another question I have for you. Okay. Basketball is starting back up February 13th. Okay?
For UVM?
For UVM men.
Yeah.
Their last game they played was the 17th of January. So that's going to be a 4-week pause.
Yeah.
And again, I'll ask you the same question I asked about high school. Schools like Gonzaga that's played they're 17. Most schools have played their full complement schedule. But Vermont keeps taking these.
Yeah.
They
decided long ago just to play conference games.
Yes, exactly. But I don't understand the inconsistency of, like, for example, hockey, I'm not sure when's going to start. I do know for a fact that their scheduling, Duke, is going to be on a week-by-week basis.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. But, like the Big Ten, they've played every game. Hockey, it's just the inconsistencies, throughout the country. And
there's plenty of that. You're right about that.
So
we'll see if Vermont even gets back. But at this point, I mean, it looks like they plan to men's basketball, hockey, men's and women's hockey, plan to get playing again.
Yes. Yeah. So,
Boy.
I'm looking forward to, any little bit of sports I can get when they start back up Feb 13th, again against Stony Brook. You have the option of watching it on ESPN3 where you just scream into your remote control and you can watch the game.
Boy, I can't believe I stumbled on, I just can't believe how I'm just relatively uninto the Duke Hoopsters who've given me, decades worth of great times, but just not into it. I stumbled on their game at Miami, losing another close game. Not a good team. I think there's good talent, young talent, but not a good team.
Yeah.
But I'm just not really into it.
Yeah, Duke has stumbled to a 7-6 record.
Well,
not only are they not in the top 25, they're not even receiving votes.
Oh, right, yeah. Probably not even close.
And I can tell you, as you can imagine, there's a lot of glee in the internet world about Duke's fall.
No, I'm sure there's tons of it. It looks like the only really good team in the ACC, and they got off to a bad start. The Virginia Cavaliers. In fact, I think Gonzaga destroyed them 2 months ago, 30 points or something. I think on a neutral court. Yeah. But since then, the Cavs great coach, of course, coming off a national championship a couple of years ago. They've gotten back into the top 10. They might be the only good team in the ACC, which is usually as good a basketball conference as any. So clearly a very down year for the ACC.
Duke, I have a question for you. During the draft, and of course, the word is now, draft picks aren't as important as they used to be because
you're talking basketball now,
right? Because when the NBA does their draft in June, I mentioned to you last week, I think 8 out of the first 10 are all freshmen. Well, you really don't know what you're getting with a 19-year-old kid. They might have peaked, and I will say the vast majority of number one picks really do not pan out. Now, a lot of them don't know how to play defense, okay? They're 1 year removed from high school, and these kids basically, or generally speaking, they're scorers, okay? They've never been told by coaches, okay, forget scoring 30 points a game. You've got to play some defense. Going into the NBA during the draft, you hear a lot where, well, Duke Forrest here averages 18 points a game, really moves the ball well. He's got a great three-point shot, little weak on the defense. You hear that quite often. You watch NBA basketball, okay, not all teams wish to play good defense. So my question is, a lot of times when people are being drafted, they're an offensive specialist.
Yeah.
Now, when I was watching the draft this past year, there was a kid, I think, boy, help me to remember, Canisius Stanley from Duke?
Something like that.
19-year-old kid, extremely athletic, not a very good, polished offensive player at all, but could play defense, okay? And I've often wondered, well, why aren't the really good defensive players come in saying, look, we're playing the Warriors tonight. We're playing against Stephen Curry. We don't expect you to score, but instead of Curry scoring 32 points tonight, you're going to play defense, and you're going to stick on him like a dirty pair of underwear. I don't understand. And there's guys at the end of the bench. Oh, Joe Blow here out of Idaho is a three-point wizard. They can throw him the game for instant offense. Well, what about some instant defense?
Yeah, it seems like it's become such an. Speaking of Steph Curry, didn't he get 37 last night against the Celtics?
Yeah.
It seems like it's such an offensive, But yeah, I hear you. I mean, I love any of my teams. I love good defensive teams, but it just seems to be a lost art, kind of.
And I don't know if it's a generational thing, but I love watching good defense.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah,
and I still love basketball, but the state and age of the three-point play, it's.
Yeah, I agree. I've just kind of gotten tired of it. And as I've said before, I'm sorry the colleges, did they bring, I think colleges extended the three-point line a little bit.
They did a few years ago.
But it's not as far as the pros.
Well, no.
But,
And the thing is, Duke, you don't need anybody to play with, to practice through a three-point shot. You could go to Holton Park with a few basketballs and just keep. And the funny thing is, even centers, the big men, are becoming fairly proficient.
Who cares?
It's just kind of a universal thing now.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, my opinion would be I'm just going the three-point shot. In retrospect, I'm not sure it was a good idea. I think it might have been a bad. I mean, the Dukies drive me crazy. Some games, that's all seems to be all they're doing, throwing up three-point shots. And if they're cold, I'm going, geez, guys, you might want to drive to the basket once in a while. But I don't know, three-point shooting, it's just kind of a disease.
And I'll admit, when they first came out with this, I was all in favor because teams with the big man, the really good big man, tend to be the teams that won all the time. So I figured, well, this will make the game a bit more athletic, which it has. But it really, you get a rebound, one pass, and the guy will just pull up for a three-point shot. Nobody goes in for a rebound. They're back at the other end. So.
I wish we had somebody like Bob Ryan here. I suspect Bob would not be singing the praises of all the three-point shooting.
Now, have you seen Bob Ryan of late? He's really aged.
Yeah, I see him, I guess,
Quite a
once
bit.
in a while. Yeah, Hingham resident.
Yeah. How old is the old Globe writer?
Well, of course, what comes to mind when I think of Bob Ryan is how, talk about luck. I'm sure I've mentioned this probably a bunch of times. Guess what two writers, Ryan being one of them, and Peter Gammons, I think they started at the Globe on the same day.
Yep.
Not a bad effort by the Globe to have those two guys check in. I suspect Ryan's probably even a little older than me, probably mid-70s,
That's
I would
what
guess.
I'm thinking, yeah. Yeah, because I saw Ryan on a podcast on YouTube there within the last couple of weeks. So
Love Bob Ryan.
Yeah.
Just great career. And the Globe, he still throws a column in the Sunday Globe once in a while.
yeah.
But no, I agree. 3-point shooting is, but I think it's just gotten, a bit out of hand. But how do you, genie's out of the bottle. Good luck ever bringing that back in.
Yep. Agreed. So, okay. So turning my attention back to baseball. Now, when the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts, you heard no dissenting on my part.
Yeah.
They were going to lose him anyway. They were over the salary cap. They just kind of wanted to push the restart button, and they got what I call a star player in Alex Verdugo. Don't know if he has enough power to ever become a superstar, but he's a very, very good ball player. And with Jackie Bradley Jr. being a free agent, and certainly more than likely not to come back to the Sox, Verdugo will be manning the center field
I guess they'll
position.
throw him in center. Yeah.
Free agent Hunter Renfroe that they picked up about 2 months ago will be taking over in right field. And left field, a question mark. And I told you 2-3 weeks ago that Benintendi would be gone by the weekend, like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. I don't think he's going.
I'm thinking right now that Benintendi will stick with the Red Sox.
Yeah. Again, what are they going to get? Not like they're going to get a star player for him.
And I think it would be wise to keep him because realistically, the Red Sox are not a playoff team.
Might as well on the off chance he comes back.
Absolutely.
Before his trending has been down. Not that what did he have, like 30 at bats? But he looked, in the few at bats he got, he's swinging at pitches in the dirt. He just looked like he had totally lost it.
Shocking to me because he just looked so fundamentally sound. And he just, to me, looked like a throwback 1960s type ball player.
Yeah. But I guess I shouldn't give, why not give him one more year?
And like I said, realistically, they're not a playoff team, especially now that they're not having expanded playoffs.
I wouldn't think so.
And with the Yankees and the Blue Jays in the division, the Jays have spent a ton of money.
Yeah, Jays look like they're getting fairly serious
this winter. But my deal with the Red Sox is they save $35 million a year by not signing Mookie.
Yeah.
And they did pick up some bodies rather cheaply. This past week, your new second baseman will be Enrique Hernandez, who formerly of the new L.A. Dodgers.
He seems like not a bad ball player.
He's a 240 hitter lifetime, but I've seen him a lot. He's a much better player than that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to call it a complaint, and I'm not a Red Sox fan, but they never picked up a starting pitcher in the offseason.
Didn't they get who was the guy? They got Mr. Perez. Wasn't he gone for a while? And they
that's right, Martin Perez.
Right,
they signed for like $5 million. So Chris Sale, they're going to baby, There's no rush to get him back. So if Chris Sale and the doctor says we're ready this week, I say fine. Then you're playing next week.
Maybe next week or next month or something.
Yeah. So your starting staff.
Yeah, Mr. Evaldi, Nathan Evaldi.
Erod, Nate Evaldi, Tanner Houck.
Yeah, who looked great, and I think his last 3 starts looked very good. Young guy, yeah.
Nick Pivetta.
Who they got from the Orioles in that trade? Is it Orioles?
I can't remember where he came from.
Got him in a trade wherever they.
And Martin Perez. I just thought
sound like a playoff team.
No, if they could have picked up, there wasn't much out there for pitching.
But again, maybe with a team that's so shaky that seems like it's not postseason prime, maybe you can say why spend a bunch of buckos when it may well not get you to the promised land.
And you're preaching to the choir because I've always said that if you're an 81 game winner
Yeah.
playing 500. Why go out and spend $20 million to pick up an additional 4 or 5 games
Yeah.
and still not make the playoffs?
Yeah.
So that may be their thought process. In the bullpen, at this point, Matt Barnes will be your closer, along with a bunch of other guys. But I want to bring this up. Last year, Brendan Workman was one of the few Red Sox pitchers that did really well. They were able to
Talking about in the shortened season or the full season before?
Shortened season.
Okay.
They were able
full
to,
season before he got really good.
yeah, they were able to pedal him to the Phils
Yeah.
to get a prospect.
I think it was the Phillies I was confusing with Baltimore there. Cavetta, whatever his name
Nevada,
is.
I think, did come from the Phils.
From the Phils in that
because
trade, I
he was a Nats farmhand for a while.
Yeah.
But Workman stunk, Duke. And I don't have his stats in front of me.
But terrible.
But I bet his ERA was around 7 with the Phillies
Yeah.
as free agent. I'm thinking to myself,
Boy, maybe bring him back.
bring him back
They
to
can get him
Fenway.
cheap. Yeah, I'd do that in a second probably.
Yeah, get him on the cheap.
Yeah, he became their legit closer in the full season, their last full season, and had a very good last half of that season. Yeah, I'd do that in a second.
Yeah, so Christian Vasquez will be back at catcher.
Yeah.
Young Bobby Dahlbeck, interesting player. He 80 at-bats last year.
I
Duke.
just hate the home run or strikeout players trying to drive me.
Exactly. Get used to the 21st century. And I agree with it. It's tough to watch.
Yeah.
But he had 8 home runs
Yeah.
in 80 at-bats.
Yeah, that's
do the math.
impressive.
If he
Yeah.
plays every game, gets 600
Home run
at-bats.
every 3 games or two or three games.
Second baseman, a nice pickup on Enrique Hernandez, as I said. Rafael Devers, who had an off season last year. I mean, they still have a very good starting
And
8.
solid shortstop, great, good shortstop. Yeah,
Yeah.
they still have some talent. Boy, Dustin Pedroia, finally, I guess Dustin mercifully here is officially hung it up.
And he'll receive his full complement of pay of $14.5 million.
They must have insurance. Does insurance pick up?
I would guess, but Duke, he's made 14.5 for the last 3 years
Wow.
with 9 games
9
being
games,
played.
right? Last 3
Yeah.
seasons.
And somebody asked, is Dustin a Hall of Famer? The answer to that is absolutely not.
No, just not
because
long enough for
he
one
doesn't
thing.
have the numbers.
I think 1,800 hits.
1,800 hits. Now, if he was never injured
Sure.
and continued his same play,
No, could well have been a
could
Hall
have
of
well
Famer.
have been. But
Yeah.
the word if the rabbit never would have stopped to go
Yeah.
poop, the fox never would have caught
Yeah,
him.
I guess the question is best Red Sox second baseman and Bobby Doerr, who sounded like a great player way before my time, but right up there.
Yeah.
But
No.
boy, at his prime, you loved him. Nobody played harder than Dustin Pedroia.
Well, that's part
which
of
may
the
be,
problem.
Yeah, it might have been the
Exactly.
problem.
Nobody played harder
Yeah.
than him. He was, 5 feet 8 inches, something. I mean, he was a bulldog out there.
Yeah.
I suspect
Yeah,
his
good
number
word.
will be retired by the Red Sox.
I would tend to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but realistically, with the Red Sox, the way I look at them, 500 season.
Yeah,
I mean,
sounds about right.
Bogarts and Devers come back to play their normal
Yeah.
selves, better situation at second base. Dahlbeck, who knows? I mean, if he ends up hitting 30 home
So,
runs,
sorry, Dahlbeck being a first baseman.
yes, Bobby Dahlbeck. Yeah.
No, you might as well see what you get,
You know,
but just strikeouts as we
Hunter
talk about.
Renfro.
Oh, yeah, you thought that was a very good pickup.
Well, he's another one, Duke. He's going to hit a home run.
Oh, is that
or
right?
strikeout type player.
And so he's right
Right field. Yeah, good defensive
Verdugo in
player.
center and maybe Benintendi back and
Yeah.
left.
And again, it's not a bad starting 8 out there. So.
But with pitching, it sounds like kind of a 500 team.
Yeah, and of course, I was going to, on the eve or 2-week eve of spring training.
Boy, doesn't that seem weird to think that we're going to be hearing about spring training in 2 weeks? I almost can't believe it. But I guess it's happening, huh?
Just watching hockey, just every night it feels weird to me. Now, one thing I did want to say about, and I forgot to say, if the owners got their wishes about the 54 game schedule,
Which was, of course, the old for years and years. It was 154
right until
games.
1961.
No, really, 61.
And that was the year Roger Maris hit 61 home runs
61 off Tracy Stallard gave up number 61
of the Red Sox.
in Fenway Park, I think.
And there was a lot of controversy there that the Babe, George Herman Ruth, played 154. And a lot of folks wanted the asterisk next to Maris's name.
Well, not Maris's fault they extended that, but sure, that was an issue.
Because if I remember right, there was expansion that year. The California Angels came.
I guess so, if they changed the number of games, yeah.
The
probably.
Mets came. Yeah, I can't remember.
Did the Mets come that? Because I think of the Masons in '69. Did the Mets come? I guess wasn't Casey? Poor Casey, wasn't he their first manager
Casey
in his kind of old age?
Right, because the New York Giants.
I'll lose track of that stuff.
Boy,
56. I think the Brooklyn and the Dodgers headed west.
I remember.
I think 56.
Horace Stoneman was the owner of the Giants.
Yeah,
he literally had the choice. Horace, we want to go west. Your choice. You want to go to L.A. or San Francisco?
No, really, and pick San
Well, back then, San Francisco was a little bit more hip of a city than L.A. was.
Maybe it still is, although San Fran sounds like it's not having the best of times these days.
And so I believe, 2 years later, the Brooklyn Dodgers left Ebbets Field.
When you say 2 years later, no, Hawk, they left at the same time.
The Giants and Dodgers left
sure.
at the
Why
same
would
time?
they have left at different times? Because that gave them one opponent to play that wasn't across the country.
Okay, I stand corrected. Yep.
They did it together. Yeah, they absolutely did it together.
Yeah.
I think 56.
Yeah, and I wasn't prepared for this topic, but my memory serves me correct. The Dodgers could have had a new ballpark built close to where Shea Stadium was built, but they didn't want to leave Brooklyn. Okay, and of course I told you how they got the nickname the Dodgers. I told you that a number of years ago.
You did probably tell me that. I'm sure I probably forget.
Because the Dodgers is a very weird name for a team nickname.
Yeah.
Well, the term Dodgers comes from, of course, Brooklyn. There were a lot of trolley cars. So you were dodging the trolley cars and stuff, and that's
interesting.
How the name became.
When you say Dodgers, it makes me think of not that my father sure didn't, but there's a World War II song, the D-Day Dodgers, about folks who knew D-Day was coming at some point and tried to do what they could to be not part of D-Day and maybe have a better chance to not get killed.
Yeah,
but I've heard it's kind of a funny song if you ever come across that. D-Day Dodgers.
I did go to Citi Field a couple years ago, the home of the Mets, and great looking stadium from the outside. They copied what Ebbets Field's ballpark looked like from the outside. Very attractive.
I made it to a long ago game with the aforementioned Mike Protzel, my Duke friend from New York, New Jersey. Went to a game at Shea Stadium, the one game in New York I've ever seen. One game at Shea Stadium. Kind of embarrassed to say I've never been to Yankee Stadium. Although if I'm embarrassed about that, this fairly serious Patriots fan has also never seen the Pats in Foxborough. I've seen them twice at the old Giant Stadium playing the Jets. Never seen a game in Foxborough.
I've been to a number of ballparks, but I've never been to Foxborough for whatever reason. So, lost my train.
But boy, that's interesting. So 2 weeks, supposedly we're going to see spring training.
Yeah, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. I don't see any reason, unless something crazy happens. So the Yankees are expecting Dave. The Yankees look good on paper.
They just lost Mr. Tanaka went
back to Japan. Yeah. And I was going to ask David.
After a decent, not lights out, but I guess a fairly decent
career. I think 7-year career with the Yanks. So the Yankees rotation, Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber, who they picked up. And I said 3 years ago, two best pitchers in the American League were Chris Sale and Corey Kluber. And of course, they have injuries over the last year or two. So Jameson Talon that they got from Pittsburgh, Jordan Montgomery and Devi Garcia, so decent staff. You've got Chapman holding down the bullpen. Catching, again, another question I have for David.
Their questionable decision to keep Mr. Sanchez.
Remarkable to me because when he came up, and played part of the season, and he just hit every other
He hit
at-bat
a ton of homers.
with a home run. And I said to myself, oh my God, dust off a spot. This kid's going to Cooperstown.
Yeah.
And we found out he's literally the worst defensive catcher in baseball. I thought the Yankees, they certainly don't need his home runs because they hit so many anyway.
Yeah.
They really should have got rid of him one way or another and picked up. So Luke Voigt back at first. They re-signed DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah, great signing.
Gio Urshela at third is a nice underrated player. Shortstop is Gleber Torres. Again, he's just out of shape. He needs to get back in shape. So the Yankees look good. The
Jacoby Ellsbury, mercifully, is he finally?
I haven't heard that
gone?
name mentioned. I think his 20 I think it was $22 million a year he was getting, and I don't
kind of a
think
Dustin Pedroia thing. He just kind of injuries. He just kind of stopped playing.
Yeah. So that's about it with baseball. I mean, there's been a trickling of free agent signing here or there.
So your Nets, no news for us for your Nets?
They did pretty well this winter. At Christmas Eve, they traded for slugger Josh Bell from the Pirates. Pirates were just getting rid of everybody. I bet they could end up with the lowest payroll this year. They picked up free agent and very mediocre defender Kyle Schwarber for left field. Another 35 home run man. Ryan Zimmerman, the face of the franchise.
So back for one year for
right.
nothing, not even a mil?
One year for $1 million.
Wow, was he okay? Was that all he could really expect?
He made a ton of money.
Yeah, he was okay.
And he had a good career with the Nats, but he missed a lot of time with injuries.
Yeah.
And today they signed to a non-roster contract, whatever. Remember 2 years ago when they won the World Series, Gerard Parra, the baby shark?
Oh, yeah.
So he left for Japan, played in Japan last year.
Oh, really?
And they signed him to a non-roster position.
Oh, yeah.
See if he can win a job down in Florida.
So you feeling pretty good about your Nats? Or?
Well, Strasburg pitched maybe 9 innings last year.
Really?
And he had that usual baseball injury of carpal tunnel, which I've never heard of baseball in my life. And Steven Strasburg would have been a player that would have been a Hall of Famer. But with all his injuries,
he's just not going to have enough.
He's just not going to have enough numbers to, he's got a lifetime ERA of 3.19, which is incredibly good, and that's certainly Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah.
But
just not enough.
Third of his career, he's been sitting at home.
Yeah, I suspect you're definitely right about that.
Am I excited about baseball? Sure. I mean, I'm a sports guy. Like, there's been hockey games this year. A lot of them have been postponed due to COVID and all that. And you kind of shrug now. So it's kind of like the new normal is, COVID's in the news. Okay, so what do you have for supper last night?
Baseball, that just blow, I
know.
I almost can't imagine we're talking baseball in 2 weeks here.
Yeah. So before I forget, I just want to touch base with golf here. I did watch NBC's coverage Sunday, and it's always good to look at green grass. I don't think it was sunny out, but La Jolla, not a particularly good-looking golf course. It didn't really do much.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, I love coastal stuff. I guess it's no Pebble Beach, but that's not a bad-looking course. But, I love just the big cliffs on the Pacific, one of the holes is really cool, but I paid a fair amount of attention to.
But the big controversy there was
got good old Patrick Reed.
If he's not the most hated golfer on the tourney, Bubba Watson is probably the most hated golfer.
Is that right?
But Captain America, Patrick Reed, and I guess my first question to you is, Why is he so hated, Duke?
Well, just because of a checkered past, stuff going back to college. I think he started at University of Georgia, and there are a ton of pro golfers who are bulldogs. It's unreal. I think I'm tempted to say like 10
graduated with
10 to 20
Augusta College.
Right, but again, he started at U Georgia, I believe, and an issue came up there, some cheating thing or something, and then flipped over to Augusta, and I think there might have been issues there, but it just seemed it was the sand trap thing a couple of years ago when he clearly moved the sand and denied that he did something. It's just like a bunch of things, but just checkered past. I mean, all the stories. Patrick Reed, I wish I had one of the headlines. More controversy for Reed. It's just, and again, Rory McIlroy had a somewhat similar issue. A non-story, just because of Rory's reputation.
Yeah.
And I suppose part of me feels a little bad. It does kind of obscure how good a golfer Captain America is.
Yeah.
The
he ran away with it
won by 5 strokes.
5 strokes.
For his 9th PGA victory.
And for the record, his Augusta College or Augusta University, which I've never even heard of, they did win the national championship.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, and another thing, going back to his Masters, his one major win. I mean, who could forget Patrick, in the 18th green, when he's won it. Talk about tepid applause. And again, this is a lot of the controversy. I think he was whoever was interviewing him, because everybody knew he had basically no relationship with his parents, were very shaky.
See, he
was asked about that after his big Masters. You might have thought he might have been, a little generous and stuff, but just something like, I'm not going there. But I mean, just stuff like that.
Educate
just kind
me.
of an accumulation.
He's estranged from his parents?
Yeah, it sounds like estranged. He and his wife have done, it sounds like warring with his parents for a long time.
I didn't know that.
For whatever reason. But I think it's just that's part of it. I think some cheating stuff in college and just stuff that keeps coming up on the pro tour, it seems like every other year or so.
So I believe it was Saturday when the incident occurred.
Saturday on number 10.
He hit his drive, and it went out of his view.
I think it was actually the second shot. I think it was his second shot. He had hit his drive. His approach shot to the green, I think on number 10.
So he went and asked a volunteer.
Yeah.
Did it bounce?
Yeah.
You clearly heard the volunteer say, no, it did not bounce.
And he didn't see it. Yeah,
he didn't see it.
He didn't see it bounce.
But this is where the mystery, he didn't ask anyone. He picked the
right. I mean,
ball up.
The biggest blunder to most people is that he picked the ball up. I mean, if he had any question, if he thought it was going to be embedded, he should have had a rules official come over, which I think is what Rory did. Anyway, but he picked it up and supposedly maybe if there was mud on it, got that off, and then kind of belatedly had the rules official come over, and the rules official supposedly said, "Yeah, you're good," but I guess TV replays later showed the ball bouncing.
But the PGA did say afterwards that Reed did nothing wrong.
I guess they said that, but again, it just gets back to his reputation and stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, there goes. And again, well, I guess they did say that, but it still seems like he should have had the rules official come over first. I guess.
Yeah.
But.
And on the good side of him, tell their viewers the great nickname, Captain America. How did he obtain that?
Just his Ryder Cup. I mean, he's, sure.
We don't usually do well in the Ryder Cup, but that one particular year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and he loves that. I mean, he's nothing if not a gritty, intense guy, and that's probably in Ryder Cup stuff. That's probably exactly who you want.
And what was so compelling to me was all that controversy surrounding hole number 10. He went out and just played marvelous golf the final round.
I mean, for a lot of people, you would have thought with that controversy hanging over them for the final round, talk about pressure, would really mess them up. I guess Patrick is pretty good at compartmentalizing, but I guess he's used to this. It's just part of his. Just part of being who he is and stuff. So obviously he doesn't let that bother him.
Now, Duke, the tourney this week, starting tomorrow, is the Waste
God, usually
Management
the biggest
Phoenix
party
Open.
in the world.
Right, and they have those huge grandstands, which
Especially 16,
is
the
it
par
16?
3 16th, I
okay,
think.
where you don't see anywhere else
Tens
in the
of
world.
thousands, oh, yeah.
And every other person's drunk. It is
Right.
loud,
Right.
and it's something you never see in golf.
No, right. It's
So-
unreal. I guess they're allowing some people
Okay.
in. I think.
Okay.
I know it's obviously not a full house, but I'm assuming some people, but I don't even know that. I wish somebody, if Leonard's out there, if somebody could,
Yeah.
was more on top of that.
Yeah.
I think allowing some fans, but usually it's the attendance. I mean, when I go to my remind me to talk RBC Heritage. I got great news on that. My tourney in Hilton Head. But the crowd figures are hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of people a day. It's unbelievable. But it's a fun tourney.
And just to let you know, the following week is at your favorite
back
golf
on
course, Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach, the following, and I think the week after that, one of my favorite courses, which you can maybe picture, Riviera, outside L.A. I love that course. There's something about the trees of that course. I love that course.
Yep.
So we got three good weeks coming
So
up.
before we talk about
And TPC just like about a month away. That's not far away. That's mid-March.
TPC, March
11 to 14.
Yeah. Before we talk about on your vacation in April, the tourney that you attend every year, there's been proposed changes in golf. There's concern about how long the pros hit. And on average,
long?
they're hitting 30 yards longer
Wow.
today than they did like 20 years ago.
Is that,
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
surprised it's not even more than that.
Yeah, and 30 yards, I mean, sometimes you buy a club and you'll say, oh my gosh, I can hit 10 yards farther,
Yeah.
and you're pretty happy about that.
30 significant.
So yesterday, they announced 3 proposed changes.
Huh.
A limit on the maximum driver length from 48 inches to 46. U.S. Open champ Bryson DeChambeau is one of the high-profile players who has experimented with the longest shafted driver in order to attain more distance off the tee. Next, changes to how drivers are tested for distance, which is known as the spring lake effect, and changes to how golf balls are tested by revising the conditions. And the driver length maximum will have a 1-month review period, while other testing proposals will be reviewed every 6 months. We've talked about this numerous
Yeah.
times, about just the equipment. It's just,
No, that makes sense to me. I mean, what do we want? Another 20 years? The average average guy
and
hitting
Duke,
350?
you're a pretty good golfer. Could you imagine?
More than kind.
Could you imagine if Tiger Woods, Bryson DeChambeau said, hey, Duke, we love you, man. Here's a brand new set of our clubs. Can you imagine going out and playing with their sticks?
No, I can't imagine. I'm happy I think I spent $50 on the driver that Mike Swim did a great job re-gripping for me this past season. For me, that was a lot of money at some place in Massachusetts in a big barrel. But it was, as you recall, my drivers before, I was using yard sale drivers were my main drivers before. For me, I spent big $50, I think. But I think I'm sure that's not crazy to me to think about doing something like that. I mean, what are they going to do? Golf courses are now typically, about 7,500 yards for the pros?
Yeah.
We're going to just get it to 8,000? I mean, you got members, you have regular players to deal with, so you're just going to have tees that stretch 150 yards apart or something?
Well, David mentioned maybe 3 weeks ago that golf is the only sport that doesn't have a regular ball. Okay,
Yeah, that's a
baseball.
good point.
You're the pitcher
Yeah.
for the Red Sox. I'm pitcher for the Nats.
Yeah.
We're going to use the same ball. We use the same puck in hockey. We deflate gate, right? Everybody uses the same football.
Yeah.
And golf
the
doesn't
Patriots.
have that generic. This is what you're going to use.
Yeah, that's a great
Would
that's a
be
great point.
shocked if they got to a point
Yeah.
where this is the ball you want, and if you want to slap on a Nike label on it or Titleist Pro V1, that's strictly up to you.
Yeah, that's maybe the way to go.
I don't think they'll change rules for hackers such as ourselves, but the pros,
Yeah.
DeChambeau,
Right.
his body is just one big
Yeah.
muscle, and he's not just practicing his swing.
Yeah.
It's the science of
Yeah.
the body and all that. And he doesn't care because these guys are so good. Of course, he likes to keep the ball in the fairway. If he goes in the rough, they're
No big
so
deal.
good, dude.
I'm using a wedge instead of these other guys hitting, 6 irons, 7 irons into the green. I'm hitting a wedge. So what's the rough
Well,
going to do?
listen, a few weeks, I think DeChambeau's only played in the first tourney at Kapalua. He was 270 yards out, dude. He used a 7-iron. I kid.
270.
270 with a 7-iron.
I hope it was a down. Was it like
It
on
might
18
have
or
been,
something?
but still, I mean, we
That's
can't even
insane.
hit our driver 270
I go
yards.
back to, I think, 5 years ago, maybe even if I'm 150 yards, I'm thinking 9-iron. These days, I think I'm probably thinking maybe 7-iron.
Yes, that's one thing we should attest to old age is
Yeah.
we get older and we come up short in the green and say,
Yeah.
gee whiz,
Yeah.
I'll try that next. Well, I did it again. Then you realize, gee, I'm in my mid 60s here or early 70s,
Yeah.
and the ball just doesn't go quite as far as it used
But
to.
I think a standardized ball, that might be the way to go. But, I mean, what are they going to keep doing? Are they going to keep going over 8,000 yards? They used to call
Yeah.
it tiger-proofing
Yep.
golf courses. I mean, that's insane.
Right.
I
Yep.
mean, there are a few things they can make the fairways narrower, probably, less fairway to hit on. But again, then you have DeChambeau, who could care less.
Yep. Yep.
So I think a standardized ball might be a good thing to think
so
about.
Duke, you're officially doing your not Carolina, your
I'm South Bend,
Savannah.
or Hilton Head.
Hilton
Savannah's
Head.
close by.
Yeah, and you always
My
say
April
Savannah.
trip.
So,
In fact, I was going to do it. Then I ran into the being able to go to the kind of the head of the line on my vaccination, which came out of the blue because of my job. But
and I talked to you briefly after the show last week. But that was interesting. You gave the hotel your monies up front.
Right, 'cause
and
I was going to
everybody's
go
been-
last
Everybody's
year.
been real good about, and I've had a lot of trips getting your money back. And they
Right.
told you,
I guess I could have, but again, I loved that trip so much, which
Yeah.
you know. So I just decided to re-up. I guess I could have gotten my money back last year, and I held out for a while, even when the golf tourney was canceled.
Yeah.
I hated it. I mean, I loved that trip, but it eventually just became a little too insane. Anyway, so I re-upped for my oceanfront condo in Hilton Head, and the golf tourney I also had. My choice was to get my money back, re-up, or donate the money to charity. They raised a ton of money for charity. Hey, I wish you well, but obviously not doing that. So I re-upped both golf and condo. So anyway, about 3 weeks ago, I'm pondering, gee, maybe I better talk to the condo people to see what's going on in case I'm deciding not to go. And I got a letter in the mail, basically the gist of which was, Richard, we're looking forward to seeing you on April 10th. If perchance we're not going to see you on April 10th, don't think you're getting your $1,400 back.
Yeah.
So when I got that letter, I'm saying I'm going.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to get. It wasn't clear at this point, being as old as I am, but in the next group to get vaccinations 70 and older, wasn't sure I'd pull that off before the trip. But then it's funny. The next day, I get a letter from the state, which I almost didn't open, nondescript envelope, and it's just like me. I get tons of junk mail. Would have been just like me not to have opened this. Fortunately, I opened it, and it said, because of your job and then my pay agent out of White River Junction, because you're working with someone with a disability, you're eligible to get a vaccine. Dealt with them that day and got one the next Monday.
now, where did you get your
At
shot?
Northwestern,
Okay.
they have in their conference room. They have of course, Collins Pearly has become the main vaccination place for right now the 75 and older folks. That's at Collins Pearly.
Yeah.
But this is a Northwestern, very together operation.
Yeah.
Gave me my shot. I had no side effects. Waited in the waiting room for half an hour and then left.
I heard that you don't get
The second shot,
the
you're much
second
more.
one to watch out for.
In fact, I saw my dermatologist about my neck issue, and he had just gotten his second shot and said he was really kind of down and out for a day.
Okay.
So it sounds like the second shot's more of an issue. But anyway, sorry to get.
That's all right.
Anyway, so when I got the news on the condo, I said I'm going. I'm not throwing away $1,400, and the thought of being on the coast, golf or no golf, for 10 days sounds pretty good to me. After, no offense to Vermont, having not left the state for a year now. Last trip out of the state was with a kid for the New Hampshire primary, probably about exactly
Yep.
a year ago. Anyway, But then I'm wondering about the golf tourney, and just within the past week, I get a long email from the golf tourney folks. And I was thinking, of course, the Masters has decided to let some patrons in. Boy, good luck being one of those people. Anyway, so RBC Heritage checks in and says we're going to allow limited fans. And they noted you did buy a grounds badge last year, $165, and it wasn't totally clear.
Is that all you pay for 4 days?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that before.
Yeah.
I mean, one day at Fenway Park, I'm spending that probably for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
160, and that's even practice rounds if you want. But it's 7 days, but the 4 days of the tournament. Anyway, so they said we're going to allow some spectators in, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll get to go maybe one day or something. But then they say you got a grounds badge last year. We're going to turn that over to another name for it. But I was a little confused by the wording, but it said, and that will be good for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going, that just sounds too good to be true.
And you
so
know
I
what?
called up and exchanged messages, but apparently this badge that I'll get in the mail in March is good for, apparently, every day.
Duke, with a limited amount of people.
You might even see me, somebody might see me on TV.
The access you're going to be so much closer to everything. Oh, good for you.
So seemingly I'm good for 4 days. I would have expected, I was expecting them to say, pick your day, we'll give you like 1 day or something.
So from your hotel/condo, if I
great.
remember your story, do you rent a bike?
Oh, absolutely rent a bike.
A bicycle, and you're able to ride to the golf course.
Half hour away. Talk about a great way to go. Just coincidence. I've stayed at the same place for like 20 years, and coincidentally, Sea Pines is where the golf tourney is, and that's kind of the exclusive, I guess, southern, I'm trying to think where how the island lies. Exclusive kind of southern or southwestern part of the island. You have to pay. On a normal day, you have to pay if you want to go into Sea Pines. Yep. It's not quite like the 17-mile drive at Pebble Beach, which I think you have to pay $20 if you want to drive around there. I think it's like $5.
Wow.
But with my golf pass, they'll let you in, but a half-hour bike ride. And there's also a shuttle bus right near where I stay. I wonder if they're going to be running that again. But the bike ride's great.
Do they give you a lock for your bike?
No, I have my own lock.
Your own lock?
Sure.
Yeah.
And they practically give away with a place like that. It's a great biking island. That cost me maybe $25 a week or something.
Duke, I tell you, every year.
So that's a steal.
I'm envious of that trip. I just wish I was able to go with you to hang out with you with that. So,
but meanwhile, just on that, just to finish up that trip, I usually, of course, catch the women's tennis tourney, which I've caught for years, except for last year. This used to be the used to be the Family Circle Cup. I think they still call it Family Circle Cup Stadium. Now the Volvo Car Open. And I did call those guys the other day. I think the tennis tourney, the Australian Open, while we're talking tennis, Australian Open belatedly is starting Monday. So we're getting into some big-time tennis. But anyway,
now,
so the tennis tourney in Charleston.
Is the Australian part of the Grand Slam?
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely.
Okay.
And I think for a number of years, it was probably kind of the weakest link, like the PGA typically is in golf. Australian Open, they've just poured money into this. It's big time. They treat the players, I think, love it.
Okay.
If they can hike down there. Anyway, so the Charleston tennis tourney, I think, is on. And I actually called, and they called me back, and I said, any chance fans are being let in? And I think the word was no decision yet.
Okay.
But I'd be a little surprised. Tennis is just, golf is just so perfect, too, with so much room. So I'm not holding my breath on being able to go to tennis, but if they let fans in, I'll probably catch a day or two.
And do you not generally go to Savannah to a minor league baseball game?
I did, unfortunately, absolutely.
You get
nice part of the
beers?
trip.
Did you get a beer
In fact,
night?
I've called you guys on the show at least once from
25-cent beers or 50-cent beers?
That's actually at Charleston at the River Dog Stadium, or like 50 cents or whatever, maybe it's $1 draft if you walk far enough behind.
Okay.
And of course, that begs the question. I mean, That's a good question. I haven't even thought of that because I've been hearing no talk about baseball.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, I did used to go to games in Savannah and Charleston. Unfortunately, Savannah was very poor attendance. Old stadium, I loved it, but wicked old stadium. And that team moved to Columbia, South Carolina, the capital, built a nice new stadium. I haven't seen it. They're the Columbia Fireflies. Oh yeah, it was the Savannah Sand Gnats. I still have some Go Cups. Anyway, so no baseball in Savannah. Typically, I'll catch a game or two in Charleston, the River Dogs, the Yankees, full season single A affiliate. And again, hearing nothing about baseball, I haven't even checked on that.
Yeah.
Anyway. So anyway,
well, I'm glad you're doing your trip.
I just wish you got better cruise news one of these days.
Well,
Boy.
right. As you know,
So
the
you're
carrot in front of myself and my wife's nose during
Yeah.
tax season.
Yeah.
And, we work 90 straight days,
Wow.
umpteen hours. I mean, once I get home from this.
And that's you're underway, obviously.
Yeah, I'll go home once I get
Really?
home from this, and I'll go right back to work. But anyway, the carrot we have is we always have a very nice cruise waiting for us.
Right.
And we were supposed to do a trip to Europe, a bunch of countries, end up in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Monday before the tax season started,
Wow.
email, it's been canceled.
Wow.
So, but I was just thinking, you mentioned beer. Do you know the last time I had a beer? It was November at the Elks Club, had a few beers there.
Really?
And that's when the announcement came that all social clubs were discontinuing as of the following
is that
day.
Really?
And at the very least, I would like to sojourn to the Elks Club
Sure.
on Fridays, whatever. But
Nothing.
I've done nothing.
So you haven't even had one beer at home? You just never drink beer at your house?
You know what? I made a
I don't drink
decision in my youth,
Yeah.
and I'm certainly not a wise person, but I told myself, and I don't know why I came up with this, and of course, a lot of people become alcoholics and stuff, and they, you got a problem, turn to the bottle,
Yeah.
and they always say you'll never find the answer at the bottom of a bottle. But I gave myself, made a decision where I said, you know what? I'm not going to keep any alcohol at home for whatever strife I may have in my life.
Yeah.
I won't have that, and now, do I enjoy going out and having beers,
Sure.
at the Elks or at the golf
Yeah.
course? Sure.
Yeah.
And if, say, I have one too many, then the lovely Mrs. Nighthawk will drive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Between the last time I golfed Veterans Day till the start of tax season,
Yeah.
I mean, literally, and I'm semi-retired, there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
Vacations were canceled. I was in my pajamas. Okay, get up, watch TV, shower, back in the jammies, eat some more, and it was just 2 months of doing nothing. Didn't get depressed because it wasn't my decision that I couldn't vacation. It wasn't my decision that UVM hockey,
Sure.
because I'm season ticket. Wasn't my decision that Norwich University because I make an effort to keep busy. I don't want to put myself in a position where sitting at home going blah, 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 like that. But that's just the way it is. I mean, to me, depression would be, I've got hockey tickets.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go down. I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, back to work now, so I'm feeling a whole heck of a lot better.
Should I have gotten, speaking of, and you guys do, you guys work so hard, you have a ton of business. I got my income tax form for my job today. I don't have all my stuff. Shouldn't people be sending stuff out like by Feb 1 or so? Or
Well, there's some financial institutions that they have later dates because there'll be some taxes out there
Right.
too.
Well, I always get
that
some
are
stuff
done.
later.
They've been transmitted, and a few weeks later, I just got something from E.F. Hutton, blah blah blah.
But in
now,
the next couple weeks, I should certainly have everything by the end of February, shouldn't I?
I would wait till March.
Yeah.
Now, the big news is, of course, the
Or the state.
Montpelier is effed up. the
Boy,
unemployment
this sounds like an
paperwork.
amazing screw.
Yeah, and I can tell you business right now, and we'll see it, is a little slower than normal because so many people in 2020
Yeah.
were on unemployment.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I had a gal yesterday, she got sent unemployment with a different girl's name on it, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, they just messed it up badly.
Which they're acknowledging, but this was and I guess they're, in fact, the news folks are still mentioning, I caught the press conference from the Gov Tuesday. I guess what they're saying is even if you, perchance, got the correct, 1099-G
yep.
form, send it back and we'll make sure you get an accurate one
Yeah.
or something.
And you know me, Duke, I'm not a very big fan of government.
Yeah.
And not in general, period.
No, this was an unbelievable
Now, if this is
screw-up.
private enterprise and you made that screw
Well,
up,
you're
I'd say,
gone.
Duke, come on in the office
Yeah.
and shut the door.
Yeah.
I'd say to you, Duke,
Yeah.
this was a major,
Yeah.
major blunder.
Yeah.
It's affecting tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And not only that, you're an embarrassment to this company. You've ruined the image.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I would say to you, but I'll see you in April to golf, right? I mean, but in government, whoever made this mistake,
Right.
still going to work, doing their 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the
But
way government.
This was an
This was,
unbelievable screw up.
Yeah. And of course, in this day and age, the computer. It was a computer issue. Nah, come on.
I'm thinking, it seems like I'm hearing today that it was supposedly human error.
Yeah.
That it wasn't, but yeah, what a screw up.
Listen, you just don't make mistakes. You don't,
Yeah.
okay? And you make a mistake like that, then you're incompetent and
Yeah.
your
I
history.
mean, I'm going back to sports. Green Bay against Tampa, allowing that touchdown pass by Brady with seconds left in the first. I mean, you can't do that.
No.
I mean, you cannot do stuff
Yep.
like that.
Duke, you're a pro. Good segue to football. Now, last week,
But let me ask you about cruise. Are you still booked at this moment for a cruise later in the year, Hawk?
I got one for October 25th.
So that's still holding now anyway.
Yeah, that's the 3-weeker to the Middle East. This is
right.
the weird
As in
one.
Suez Canal.
Going through the Suez.
I'm reading a great book with Ian, my kid, it's a great book about parting of the desert, the creation of the Suez Canal. Remember, I don't know why you would, it's a pretty famous guy, the French guy who was the father of it, Ferdinand de Lesseps, get that name. Anyway, but it's a great book. It's funny. The Egyptian leader.
What year, Duke, was the Suez
No,
built?
we're talking, boy, I wouldn't have guessed this early. We're talking like Civil War or so.
Okay.
1860 is about when they started took about 15 years, I think.
Because when the Erie Canal was built, that was
Yeah.
considered back then one of the greatest
Really?
construction marvel in the history of this country.
So one of the, and I didn't know this, of course, my kid should be in Egypt now, had the pandemic not cost him
Yep.
a year in Egypt. Anyway, but the Egyptian ruler who de Lesseps is having to kind of get the okay from, or I guess it was maybe the father of the current ruler, but anyway, one Muhammad Ali is a famous Egyptian ruler, basically back in like
okay.
the 1840s or
Okay.
so. Muhammad Ali. Anyway, so super. I'll
right.
give you a chance.
So-
I'll give you a chance to back off. What
Okay.
you and Dave blew my mind last
So
week.
we started the show last week, David and I,
Yeah.
in saying,
Was
Duke,
it a Nighthawk guarantee or just less than that?
it's a Nighthawk guarantee, Duke.
How could you-
I don't even.
Nighthawk,
so,
what is Tom? 10 Super Bowls for the GOAT isn't enough? Has he not shown you enough to think he could possibly win this game?
not only is Tom Brady the greatest football player of all time, I put him above Babe Ruth. I always
Really?
considered Babe Ruth as the greatest athlete.
greatest- is that
period.
right? Greatest
I've got
athlete?
Tom Brady
Really?
above George Herman Ruth.
As a number one?
However, Tom Brady, as of today, is not better than Patrick Mahomes. Okay, and that's just a fact. I mean, the
Sure, it's
mobility.
a fact, but that I would just counter with: does the best team always win a game? Of course not.
No, there's a room for an upset. And we started the show last week, and I know you were like chagrining, like Dave, Hawk, you guys are idiot. Come on, but I am shocked. The line is 3.5 points. I would have bet you my life. After last Wednesday's show, this line would have moved.
It hasn't. It
Has
hasn't.
not moved at all.
So 3.5 or 3? I usually hear 3.
I think it started at 3. It's at 3.5.
3.5.
From where I'm looking, could be 3 at other places.
I'm not surprised. I mean, And again, it's a home game for Tampa with some fans there.
Yeah.
So basically, they're calling it a pick-'em. I consider it a toss-up game.
Yeah, you're more
Consider it a
optimistic
toss-up.
certainly than I for the Bucks. And for the record, I will be rooting extremely hard for the Bucks.
That's funny.
I have the utmost respect for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And of course, the internet, God love the internet. Deflategate is being brought up.
Are they really?
Oh, yeah. Should Deflategate ruin the legacy of Tom Brady?
Why?
Okay.
Why no?
Okay, I'm not a cheater, but I've got hands like a third grade girl. Okay,
Yeah.
I have very small hands. I couldn't wrap my hand around an NFL football. Would I take a little air out of it? Sure, get a better.
God, they're still flowing Deflategate at him?
Stupid. And those are the kind of articles that you see on the internet because there's so much hatred for Tom Brady out there. And I mentioned early on the show, Duke basketball being the premier
I almost mentioned
for the
it.
last 30 years, the number one program. Well, they're just gloating about how bad the Devils are this year. But that's the internet.
That's nature.
And the other
Nature.
thing,
So you think
the other thing too, it was very vile, disparaging. I only read a little bit about it. Was about Tom Brady being a Donald Trump supporter, and it was just the most despicable
What's that
thing
got to do
I've
with- what's that got to
ever
do with
read.
anything?
Okay, it's like. In this day and age we live, you vote for Trump, all of a sudden you become a Nazi, a white supremacist, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, what in the, you know, like,
Yeah, it's pathetic.
but the internet is trash. And I will tell you what I told somebody the other day.
You wonder why I don't go
when
near this
technology
stuff.
came, everybody said, wow, great. To me, it's almost destroyed society. Okay?
Don't you think social media in general?
Yes,
I think
it's
that
bad.
we may be heading toward destroying society.
It's bad.
I don't go
And,
near it. I get
you know,
freaked out
Duke,
enough by mainstream media.
When we were starting out dating the young ladies, and the advice you get is communication. That's what a good relationship is all about. Here's what there's too much communication going on now. Now, I can tell you, back in my younger years, I worked for a company in South Burlington. And part of my job, I was purchasing manager for a plant there and a plant in Pottsburg.
Good old BA Facet.
And I had my purchasing order book, so I'm on the phone, and that's part of the reason I think I don't own a phone today, because I used to be on the phone half the day, every day, and to me it was a business device. But whatever deal, okay, I purchase, so write my purchase order out. So white copy, yellow copy, pink copy. White goes to you, yellow goes to you, pink. And life was good penmanship, looked great. Then all of a sudden, computers came. It's like, holy crap. And I just never care for technology.
But I still write
I
checks.
learned.
I still write checks and stuff. I guess have resisted so much technology.
Yeah.
My kids, hooked into the real world.
Yeah. In my first marriage, which was many years ago, I did the bills. I sat there with my beverage and played my classic rock and did the bills. No issue. So
which I still do.
Divorced, single for many years, got remarried. Okay. There was no discussion on who was going to pay the bills because Donna is a whiz with that stuff. And of course, most of the stuff, she rarely writes a check anymore. Everything's done online. Now, if she was out of the picture for whatever reason, I can tell you, first thing I would do is I'd go to the bank.
Is that right?
I'd get a checkbook, soda, and I'd go back to
which is what I still do.
the old-fashioned way. So, but I don't know. It's just terrible, and boy, I could get into it for 90 minutes.
So Deflategate resurfacing. Why would that surprise me? Well, it's funny. You feel pretty good about the Chiefs, and I love Patrick Mahomes, but it's funny. So you think the Chiefs. I'm thinking it's a toss-up game, but I have mixed emotions. Do I want Brady to win the game? I have mixed emotions about that, just because of it maybe doesn't sound logical, my extreme Patriots loyalty, And I almost think that this kind of diminishes maybe his Patriot. He didn't need Belichick, and I feel a little bad for Belichick kind of being tossed under the bus, which, and again, as I've said, I've been on Belichick's case as a GM. I think he's done a lousy job for a while, but a coach and stuff, and I've read Shaughnessy's quotes. I think most Boston people say, hey, and Brady's kind of the rising star. Belichick coming off a uncharacteristically tough season and stuff. The Brady versus Belichick thing. Brady's looking good now, and I think it's absurd to throw Belichick under the bus. So
I've never played that game.
I have mixed emotions about the game.
I've never played the Belichick Brady game at all. I respect them individually for what they've all accomplished, and even the Patriots with the down year this year, they still won 7 games with a horrible quarterback.
And then
arguably the worst
not a good team, a pretty mediocre team.
Which quarterbacks, there's going to be a ton of movement here by draft day in April.
So, of course, the big sports story of the week probably was the Stafford Goff trade.
If teams out there are wondering, what's it going to cost you for a quarterback? Now, Matt Stafford, I like. He's just been on a horrible team. Somebody might argue, well, he didn't make him a better team. But he's still a solid quarterback. All right, to get Matt Stafford, who's, how old is he, 32, 33?
33 maybe,
it took the Rams a first-round pick in 22, a first-round pick in 23, third-round pick in 21, okay?
Is that now, a third-round pick, too?
Yeah, the season in 2 firsts, 22nd and the 23rd year. Now, with that being said, you've got to look at the Rams situation. They literally were ranked number 1 in defense. And you know me, I talk about Aaron Donald all the time. Number 1 defense. This team is ready to win the Super Bowl yesterday.
Well, just look at their Super Bowl loss to the Pats a couple of years ago, where they gave up, 13 points, including some of those points late? Talk about a great effort. That should have won the game.
With a quarterback, I like Jared Goff, but I think he's pretty much an average. Certainly hasn't lived up to the label of being the first overall pick. Now, he won't be scrutinized with the Lions because that's been a perennial stinky team.
What did he have to say about the trade?
In fact, good question. I asked about it today, and he's looking forward to a fresh start.
Right, so
he had a very ruffled relationship with the head coach, McVay.
Sean
McVay, who I think is top 3 coach in football. So watch out for the Rams next year. Stafford's got to be invigorated by going to a good team. And the Rams also, they have an up-and-coming running back in Cam Akers. Watch out for that kid. So the Rams will definitely be in the fold next year.
One sidebar story I just heard. I didn't see Tom E. Curran of NBC Sports Boston, whatever, who's on, a lifer with the Patriots. I just heard a reference to this. I didn't hear him report this himself, but I heard somebody else say, hey, according to Tom E. Curran, the one team that Stafford said he didn't want to go to was
New England.
The Patriots.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
But to bring that in further context, any quarterback that looks at the offensive weapons, the receivers the Patriots have, they have one good receiver, but there's nothing. They have no tight ends, so nobody's going to want to go there. Good evening. You're late in the 4th quarter here on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good. A couple things. I'll make it quick.
Well, you got 8 minutes. Take 8 minutes.
Bob Ryan will be 75 years old later this month.
Okay. Thanks. Just what I thought.
Suez Canal was opened in 1869. Very good, Duke.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm reading a book about it, so I should have been close to then.
Yeah, well, you nailed it. Also, in the deal with the Rams and the Lions, one of the more important things on the Rams is that big contract they dumped with Goff.
Yes.
I mean, he was getting paid $30-something million a year. And they did dump that. And, the way to look at it, I think you guys said it. We have a win now team.
Yes. Yep.
And with Goff, all you could do was them dunk little passes. He could not stretch the field. And our offense looked kind of terrible most of the time. They, play 7-8 in the box, and they would just dare Goff to throw the ball. He was fair, and I love that guy. He's one of the nicest gentlemen in football. Yeah. But as far as his performance, and I've watched him tons of times, he is very slow in decision making. He doesn't get a good read in the field like the Manning brothers. They look left, look right, and throw. Goff was very slow at reading defenses, and he just did not fit into the scheme any longer. And, the Rams, like we said, they're a win-now type team, so they dumped a big contract. Detroit is rebuilding. They're emptying their team out. And I think the way we'll take a big contract. We'll take Goff, but, he'll be here a couple years. But we've got all these draft picks now to start rebuilding, which was a good move for them. So it was a win-win for both teams, and I'm excited with Stafford because that guy can stretch the field, and that's what we're missing. Now we traded up to get Goff, and that's the only first-round draft pick we've had in 5 or 6 years. Now we picked in the first round number 27, 28, and you get down there. It's kind of a crapshoot, in my opinion. You're the top 50, top 10, arguably. You usually hit franchise players, and you get down towards the end of the first. They're development players. They're good athletes, but they need to be developed. So when the Rams give up a first-round pick, it's not like the Jets are giving up a first-round pick. Now, there's a guy named Jalen Ramsey, that's an all-pro, arguably the best back in football. We gave up 2 first rounds for him, which would have been the 27th, 28th pick of an unproven player. And that's, arguably one of the best trades in football ever. So, the Rams do make these work. You've got to realize you're in L.A., that L.A. turns the world. You have a guy named Mookie Betts going to L.A. You've got a big, tall, great basketball player going to L.A. You've got Mr. Stafford going to L.A. L.A. just makes a big splash in everything they do. And, I'm excited about it. I'm sure Mr. Stafford's even more excited than I am.
No, he's got to be psyched. And you have the best defensive player in football, maybe the best player in football.
Aaron Donald's the best player in football. How good is that guy? Is that right? Best player in football? A first ballot Hall of Famer. And I bet if you shake everything out, probably top 10 all-time best defensive players. This guy's unbelievable. He is unreal. And that's the key to the Rams. Aaron Donald isn't going to play any better than he has the last 4 or 5. They have to win now. And the caller's right. You diagnose a draft 4 years later. If you're lucky, half of them will pan out. And certainly when you draft quarterbacks, probably 25% of them. Ask the Rams how Goff turned out. Ask the Eagles how Wentz turned out. Ask the Jets how Darnold turned out. It's a crapshoot. And there's going to be a lot of teams trading up for quarterbacks, like a Trey Lance, Division II football, North Dakota State. He'll be a top 10 pick, but do you really know? So,
no, Bobby, you got to be psyched. Good for you. You got to be really psyched for the next season.
Oh, Super Bowl should be good. I watched more football this year than I ever have. And Brady was fantastic. I'm rooting for him. Love the guy to death. He is a winner. He's so calm and so cool, And as far as beating Kansas City, I really think they can because you've got to look what they did to Aaron Rodgers. Don't forget, Brady threw 3 interceptions that game, too. And the defense for Tampa Bay kept them in a ball game and won it. They chased Aaron Rodgers around all day. The the defense or offensive line, which is the good one for the Packers, could not hold Tampa's base front four back. Rodgers was on the go all day, and Brady stood patient there on the offense and just slowly picked them apart. So, I think it should be a good game, and it would be very deserving to see Brady win this football game. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be. Classic. 43-year-old Tom Brady against the young stud. Classic game.
So, thank you, caller. Call early next week. We'll talk baseball. Okay,
we'll
good night.
That. You guys have a nice evening, and have fun playing in the snow.
Thanks for calling. Thanks a lot.
Duke, real quickly, and I ran out of time last week. You probably saw the NBC Sports Network will be out of business at the end of the year. They cover hockey.
Was it? I thought it was NBC or CBS.
NBC SN.
Oh, is
Sports,
that right?
yeah. Now, what's going to happen is, what in the hell is the name? USA Network will take over all the sports that NBC.
I guess maybe I saw
NBC
that.
SN. Not that I know anything. Wants to get into streaming, whatever that is.
Okay.
So I just want to mention that.
Just back to Torrey Pines for a second. That's where, of course, the U.S. Open is in a few months. Back to Torrey Pines.
And hockey, real quick, I did want to spend time.
Your guys, they finally lost their first regular season game?
Yeah, we lost 2-0 in empty net goal. We outplayed Calgary, but the goaltender stood on his head.
Hockey
we didn't
called it. You had good feelings for the season.
But the Canadians are playing great. Bruins are 6-1-2. They're playing great. Canadians are 7-1-2, playing great. And my dying wish could happen this year. The only time is the Bruins and Canadians in the Stanley Cup Finals. So that is it. Duke.
Thanks,
that was fun
good job.
tonight.
Yep, good job.
Thank you for Alan Richie Cunningham, Mr. Duke Forrest. I'm the Nighthawk. Until next week, everyone, remember, you do not have to be a great athlete to be a good sport. Ciao.
See ya.